Good afternoon, welcome to Wee Willie Wonderful's tutorial for our Sweet Dreams baby blanket. Now this blanket is suitable for a baby, or it's also the perfect size for an adult lap blanket if you just want something to keep your knee warm and your legs out when you sat on an evening doing your knitting. So these tutorials are suitable for a complete beginner. So we will show you each stage from casting on, getting started and all of the stitches and casting off at the end. So all you need to do is grab your kit from weewooliewonderfuls.com for the Sweet Dreams baby blanket, and you will receive 3 of these 200-gram balls with the beautiful Sidar jewel spun, which is with wool, and it's a chunky, so the blanket will make up pretty quick. Look at those, absolutely gorgeous wool. You'll also receive your pair of 6mm knitting needles, the pattern which tells you how to make your blanket, and this is the blanket itself. So it's got a beautiful moss stitch edge. The middle is plain, so it's one of those things you can easily knit while you're watching TV. It's not too taxing, lovely and relaxing. Look at that, it's just beautiful and really soft and squishy. So let's get started. So what we're going to do first is have a look at the pattern instructions for our cast on, and I am going to mark the pattern with a post-it note so I can see where we're up to. On here at the beginning, you must always read the beginning, even though you're itching to get started on the pattern, because it will tell you a little bit about it, what stitches you need, what size your blanket will be, how much wool you're going to need, and also tells you about all the abbreviations, which is casting on, casting off, knit, purl, and moss stitch. And also stocking stitch, which is a row of knit and then a row of purl. But we're going to go through all of this with you, so don't worry even if you're new to knitting. It's a good idea to follow our Facebook page. We've got a fantastic Facebook group as well, which is brilliant for joining in. And that is called Wee Willie Wonderful's Community of Woolly Friends. So join us because there's lots of help in there. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is pop a post-it on the part that I'm up to so we can see exactly which bit we're up to on the pattern. Helps us keep track. So let me show you there. We are also making just the pattern available if you want to make it in your own wool. We'd recommend a chunky wool, but if you use a thinner wool, or if you use a more chunky wool, your blanket will be a different size. So we do recommend chunky if possible if you want to get the same size blanket as we have. So let's begin your Sweet Dreams blanket. Cast on 100 stitches, and it also obviously gives you the link to the video tutorials. We try and make it nice and easy. So we're going to show you how to cast on. So we're going to grab our wool. We're going to take off the label. Now you can work from the outside of the ball or the inside. Personally, I prefer to work from the inside because then the ball isn't bobbing all over the place. So we'll just pull out the centre, there we are. And just give it a shake and an unravel, and it should just unknot itself. So we're going to cast on. So again, like that. Pop the strand beneath it. Just pull that through, and that's the slip knot. And the thing with the slip knot is you can pull it to make it smaller, or you can pull it this way to make the loop bigger. What you want is you want the loop to fit comfortably over your knitting needle. You don't want it really tight, you don't want it really loose. We can just pull it to tighten it. Now we're going to cast on, and this is how we get our stitches. So are we ready? Now if you've never knitted before, you may need to rewind this part of the video tutorial and watch it several times. But don't worry, just do it as many times as it takes for you to get the hang of it. So we're going to get our second needle, which is in my right hand, because I'm right-handed. And then we're going to push it up there and put the needle behind. So that stage, I always say with knitting, it's in, over, through and off. That's what my mum taught me when I was little, and I find it works really well. So that's in. We're going to get our wool and we're going to wrap it around the back of the needle at the back of us and around and through the middle. So let me just show you that again. Oops. So it's going around the back of the needle at the back and through the middle. So that's over, through. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to pull this needle down and we're going to use the end to grab that strand in the middle and pull it through like so. I know it's normally in, over, through and off. When we're casting on, it's slightly different. We're doing the in, over, through, and then we're going to put this stitch on the right hand needle over there, and then we're going to repeat. So that's classed as our in, so over and through, and then we'll pop this on that needle. So every one of these that's accumulating on our left hand needle is a stitch. So we need to repeat this 100 times. So this classes as our in, over, through, and pop it over. Now I'm just going to show you that from the top. So we're in, over, through, and then we're just going to put, if you find it easy, just pop your needle in like that. And the needle in your right hand needs to always be at the back, like so. So just keep repeating. Now with this wool and with these stitches, you want them so that they are on your needle and just fit nicely on your needle. So you don't want them big and loose, and you don't want them so tight that you're struggling to get your needles in. So, and we don't want to leave this really big and loose so that it's going all over, because you won't be able to get your hold of your wool. So you don't want it like this and then put it on like so, because that's just too big. You can just pull the strand that leads to the ball and just get it so that it's just nice on the needle like so. And you can already see your work growing. So in, over, through, and then we're going to pop this on that needle. So you can either get the needle and go like that, or you can just use this needle to poke it into the stitch. So we're just going to carry on like so. You'll get into a little bit of a rhythm, but just watch the video back several times to do it. If this comes out, you need your stitches are like that, you can just literally get it, poke your needle in, try to get a full strand. You don't want to split it by going through it. And we're just going to push that so it goes toward the back, over, and then just pull that through. Pop it on your needle. So you're just going to keep going like that until you've got 100. So to count your stitches, all we're going to do is count the loops on your needle. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if you need to check back, you can count them like so. And we're just going to keep going until we have 100 stitches on our needles. So what we're going to do is leave you to carry on casting on 100 stitches, and then we'll meet you back in a few minutes, and we'll carry on with the pattern and show you the next row. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to Wee Willie Wonderfuls, and in our last video we cast on 100 stitches to get our Sweet Dreams blanket started, and in this video we're going to continue with the pattern, and we're going to start the moss stitch edging, which you can see from the edging from the photograph there. Look what a pretty effect that has, and we create that by knit 1 stitch and then purl 1 stitch. Now instructions in brackets are repeated by the number of times that it states afterwards. So we're going to do knit 1, purl 1, and then we're going to repeat that 50 times, and that will give us 100 stitches. So the number at the end in brackets is how many stitches you will have at the end of the row. So it makes it nice and simple to check that you're on track. So we're going to show you, because this is aimed at beginners, we are going to show you a knit stitch and a purl stitch. So we're going to move our stitches near the end of the needle. And this is very similar to how we cast on. Now this is how we're going to do the in, over, through and off that I mentioned in the last video. So we're going to go in, into there, and your needle at the back. So that's in, over, the same as when we cast on, through. Now instead of putting this onto our needle, our left hand needle, like we did in the last video to cast on, this comes off the needle. So in, over, through and off. and we've knitted 1 stitch. Now our next stitch is purl 1. So this one is a little different. So our first stage to purl 1 is to bring the wool to the front. So we'll just bring that through the middle. Now purling is in, over, through and off, but we're going to go in by going downwards and to the front of the other needle. So instead of going up into the back like we do for a knit, we're going down and to the front. So in, over. Now we're going to go, excuse me, bring our wool through the middle again. So we're going to over the top and through like so. And then we're going to do our through by pulling our needle back up and then off again. So these are the main 2 stitches that you will use in knitting, is the knit and the purl. So it's a little tricky because we're doing knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. But you will still get the hang of it. Just keep rewinding the video and watching. So to knit, which is the next stitch, we're going to put our wool to the back. So for knit, your wool always has to be at the back. For purl, it always has to begin at the front. So you might want to write that down if you find it a little tricky. So we're going to knit. So we're going in again like that, to the back, over, pulling it through, and then you can just use your needle to pull the stitch off. Or you can do it with your finger, but once you get knitting, you'll probably just pull up and then that will pull it off naturally. So we're going to now purl 1, which we're going down the front. So in, over, you can see that from the top, through, so you've got this loop on your needle, and off. If you're not sure what stitch you're up to, you can count them. So you've got knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So if we're up to an odd stitch, it's going to be the knit 1. So we're going to go to the back again, and we're knitting through and off. And then next to purl 1, bring the yarn to the front and purl. So keep rewinding and keep practicing. So we're going to knit 1, purl 1, taking it to the back to knit again for the entire row. So you're going to keep going right until you get to the end. Now be very careful that you don't accidentally do 2 purls or 2 knits. So you really have to keep a track, and if you're not sure, count them. Because if you've got 2, 4, 6, that's an even number, so you must be up to a knit stitch because it's knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1. So when you're up to an odd number, you're starting at the knit, and when you're up to the even number, it's a purl. But you can also tell because your wool's naturally at the back now, so we're ready for the knit stitch. Right, so we're going to be knitting, and then we're going to be purling. So now it's there, we're going to pull it forward for the purl stitch. So just repeat until you get to the end of the row, and then our next video we will come back and show you round 2. So don't start the next round until you watch our next video. So we'll leave you to do that, and we'll see you back at the end of the row. Welcome back to Wee Willie Wonderful's Sweet Dreams blanket tutorial. In the last row we left you doing the knit 1, purl 1 row, so that was row 1, and for this tutorial we're going to show you row 2. Now this is the opposite, so it's purl 1, knit 1 50 times, repeating that because it's in the brackets, which will give us 100 stitches still. So we're keeping the same number of stitches. So all we're doing is exactly the same as round 1, but we're just doing it in reverse. So purl 1, knit 1 for the full row. So let's get started. So first we're going to purl. So if you remember, that is going down the front of the stitch. Make sure we use the right thread. We don't want to accidentally use the short one. So we're going to purl a stitch. Oops, where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to move the yarn to the back to start our knit stitch. So if you're checking where you're up to, make sure that you check your first stitch is your purl and your second one is your knit. Make sure that you keep moving your post-it note at the end of each row, because the last thing you want to do is get mixed up. Or use a pen and paper to mark down the numbers, or a row counter, whatever you find the most comfortable, to make sure that you don't lose your place. Because if you go wrong on the you know, the knit one purl one, it will give, the effect won't be the same. So you can see what's happening. So we're going to start slower again with the purl one. So we're going to go down the front, over, through and off, and then we're going to do a knit stitch, and then I'll show you the effect that it's having. So this is knit one purl one. So you can see here where you've got the line, that's where we did a purl stitch. That was on the first row, and then this above, which looks like a V shape, that's where you did your knit stitch. So we've done a knit, then a purl, then a knit. But you can see, because we're doing it opposite, you've got the line and the V, and then next to it the line is above and then the V next to it. So it's a bit of a crisscross pattern, and it gives a lovely effect, and it's very effective as a border. So I'm going to leave you to carry on. So you're going to be purl one, knit one, right the way along the row, and then what's going to happen is the next rows, so you've got 10 rows of moss stitch edging all together. So round row 3 is going to be knit one purl one for the full row. 4 is going to be purl one, knit one for the full row. So you're literally just doing the alternate rows for 10 rows. So make sure you're moving your post-it note down. We wrote it all out just to make it easier so you can keep your place, or make a note with a pen of the numbers you're up to. So that is 10 rows. So I'm going to leave you to complete those 10 rows, and then the next video we'll come back and we'll show you the next row, which is starting up for the main section of the blanket. So complete the 10 rows, and then I'll join you again for the next video tutorial. Welcome back. In the last video we left you completing rows 1 to 10 of the moss stitch edge, and next we're going to be creating this section. So I thought I'd show you with the blanket. So that is the moss stitch edge we've just created, and now we're going to be creating the main section of the blanket, which has a moss stitch edging like this running down each side, and then the middle of the blanket is plain stocking stitch. So we're going to show you how to do that. So we're beginning at row 11, and the pattern says to knit one purl one times 5, place a marker, knit 80 stitches, place a marker, and then knit one purl one times 5. You don't have to place a marker, but I do find it does make it much easier, and you don't forget to do the moss stitch edging, so it's well worth it. There are markers in your kit, but if you don't have any markers to hand, you can even use just a little ring of wool or anything that'll just place a mark, something that'll pop around your knitting needle. So to follow this pattern, we're going to do knit one purl one times 5. So let's get started. So knit one, purl one, knit one purl one. So that's 2 sets. It's going to be 10 stitches in total. So I think that's correct, but I am going to double check. It's especially important on the first row that we get it correct. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's correct. So now we're just going to pop a marker on, like so. So we know where the moss stitch edging starts. And then we are going to knit 80 stitches. Would help if I pop that back first to the back. So now we're just going to knit 80, so nice and easy. So just watch, you can just keep knitting until you've got 10 stitches left on your needles. So we're just going to carry on like this. So we're knitting every stitch until we get to the last 10. So what you need to do is then knit all of them, and when you get to the last 10 stitches, we're going to pop a marker in. So let me count 2, 4, 6, 10. You could actually pop it in at this stage. If we popped it in now, we're not going to accidentally miss it. So what I'm going to do is just pop that around there. So the other marker is in place 10 stitches from the end. And then we're going to knit all the way up to the marker. And then we're going to do the knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1 for the last 10. Simple as that. So I'll leave you to do that row. And then we're going to come back and show you the next row in a few minutes. In our last video tutorial, we left you finishing row 11, and in this video tutorial, we're showing you row 12, which is purl 1, knit 1 times 5. So be very wary you're doing the stitches the opposite way around to the row before. If you don't, you'll just end up with a plain stocking stitch blanket. The pattern won't be with a lovely moss edging. So make sure that you do really carefully follow which way around the knit ones and the purl ones are. Then we're going to purl 80 stitches and then purl 1, knit 1 5 times at the end. And again, it's very important that you make sure that's the right way around. The markers we're going to leave in place so we can always see where our edging ends and begins. Just makes it far easier. So we're going to show you that. Let's get started. So our first instruction is obviously purl 1, knit 1 5 times. So we're just going to be doing it up to our marker. So it makes it a little bit easier. We don't have to, be carefully counting when we can't miss it. So nice and simple. So purl 1, knit 1. And just be wary, our last stitch is going to be a knit 1. So always double check to make sure you're on track and you're not accidentally doing the wrong stitch. So we're just going to move our marker along from one needle to the other. So we're leaving our marker in place. And then the rest and the next 80 stitches up to our next marker are all going to be purls. So we're just going to purl all the way to the end, and that's it. So what I'm going to do next, I am going to show you in the next section how to join a new ball or a new piece of yarn. So if you'd like to know that, that's following in a minute. But at the time being, I'm going to leave you completing the rest of this row. So you're going to purl every stitch up to your marker, and then at the last 10 stitches, you're going to purl 1, knit 1 to the end. And that's it. So we're going to show you that, how to change the ball in a moment. And then after that, you're just going to be following that pattern with these 2 rows repeated. And then at the end, we're going to be adding the moss stitch border. So I am going to leave you to do all of that because it's everything that we've already covered. And the video after that will be how to cast off. So we'll see you again shortly. In this video tutorial, we're going to show you what to do if you either need to start a new ball because yours has run out, or if you find a pesky knot like this one. The temptation is to just continue knitting, but what you'll find is that knot will come through and be visible all the time. It just seems to have a knack of making itself shown. So the best way to deal with this is to actually cut it out. So we're just going to take it out completely so we've got 2 ends. So the same technique applies if your ball has ended and we're rejoining a new ball, if it snaps, anything like that happens that you need to join it in. So what you would do is make sure that you leave, don't wait until literally you've got a centimetre left. You must make sure you've got maybe 10 centimetres left, and then just leave that end hanging. And then all you do is get the yarn from the next ball of wool and wrap that over when you do your over, and carry on with the rest of your row. Now I like to wait until I reach the end of the row, because it's really tricky to do if you're trying to do it while you've still got 2 needles attached. It's just more tricky. Some people do wait until right at the end of the blanket, and then you can sew all of your ends in at the same time. But I'm just going to show you how to do that now, so you know how to do it. So what I'm going to do is use my wide-eyed needle. So it has to be wide-eyed to make sure you can thread the wool. And then you can add a little bit of beeswax or a little bit of water to the end. Trim the end to make sure there isn't any fluffy bits in. So literally just give it a snip to make sure it's nice and firm. Pop a little bit of water on it, or a little bit of beeswax, something to make it easy to thread, and pop it through. May take you a few attempts, because it is tricky threading wool onto a wide-eyed needle. So don't worry if it takes you a few goes. And then all I'm going to do is on the back, so which is the back of your blanket, which is the front, I use this part as the back, so you can see it's the purl side, the purl stitches. And I have the front as the knit, which is the V's, this effect. If you want it the other way around, you certainly can. So I'm going to weave this in on the back. Now, the temptation is just to do a double knot. You can do that if you want, but the knot will always be visible. It'll probably drive you a bit potty. You'll see it all the time. So what we tend to do is don't knot it, thread it. And then I'm just going to, it's called weaving in the end. So I'm just going to weave that, not going right the way through. I'm just picking up stitches at this side, but I'm pretty much going in a diagonal direction. And then just pull it through. Just pull it so that it's nice and flat. Don't pull it tight so you've got it puckering, and don't have it loose, it's coming out. And then what I'm going to do is just weave that back a bit, not through exactly the same place you came through, because you'll unthread it, but kind of weave it back on itself. And also split strands, so you're not going under a strand, you're actually splitting it. The idea is we want this just to get a bit taffled in the back so that it will vanish. So we're threading it, we're splitting through the wool. We do it 2-3 times, and then what I like to do is just then cut it close to the edge, but be very careful you don't obviously clip your knitting. So we're just going to cut that close to the edge, and then we'll do that with all of the ends. So you do it with all the others, and then you can see on the back you can't actually see it, whereas if it was a knot it would be very visible. So you can't see it. So now we do the same with this end as well. But say if you want to wait till the end, you can do. Some people find that easier. Or if you don't like weaving in ends, it is the boring part, then you can actually just do it as you go. And that's it. So we just do that with both of those ends, and then it's disappeared and we're done. So we left you in the last video tutorial finishing right up near the end. So you're carrying on with the rows 11 and 12 repeated, and it does tell you how long to do that for. We also tell you as well how much to weigh the yarn to make sure you have enough left for the moss stitch border at the other end. We've allowed a little bit extra in the 18 to 20 grams. It's just to be safe, just to make sure that if you've got a looser tension, that you're not going to run out just before your border ends and end up having to pull some rows out. So you carry on with those rows, then do your moss stitch border at the edge, all in the instructions, as you can see there. And then the next video, we're going to show you how to cast off. And so I hope you've enjoyed it. You can find lots more video tutorials on our YouTube channel and lots more kits on our website at weewoolywonderfuls.com. See you soon. Welcome back to Wee Woolly Wonderfuls. We've just completed our final 10 rows of moss stitch, and now we're going to cast off. I'm going to cast off alternate knit and purl stitches, simply to keep the edging in the same moss stitch effect. If you're a beginner and you're a little worried and you don't want anything too complicated, you can simply knit every stitch on this row just to keep it simple. But we're going to knit one, purl one as we cast off, so just to keep the moss stitch effect. So our first stitch is going to be a knit. So we're just going to knit the first stitch, and then you'll need to bring your yarn forward for the purl stitch. And then all we're going to do is put the bottom stitch over the top stitch. Now on this round, don't do it really tightly, because otherwise you may find that your end of the blanket goes in slightly. What we want is it a little bit loose so that it's nice and stretchy, and we've got a nice square end rather than it sort of coming inwards like that. So just keep it a little bit loose. So now when our thread is at the front, that's just because we've done a purl stitch. So now we need to put it to the back to do a knit stitch. So you can always tell which one you're up to with the position of your wool. Oops, just catch a little bit together. So we've got 2 stitches, so bottom one over the top, and because the wool is at the back, that means we need to bring it forward to do the purl stitch. So we're just going to simply knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, purl 1, and every time we have 2 stitches, put the bottom one over the top, and that is it. So if you complete this row, just keep on going, and then I will meet you in the next video to show you how to finish off and weave in the ends. So you can see this is quite stretchy. There's lots of different cast off methods, so if you would like to use a different one, feel free, but this one gives a nice neat edge, and it is a little bit stretchy as well. So this one is perfect for the blanket. So I'll see you shortly. Welcome back. We've now completed our cast off row, and we can see it's nice and stretchy. All done. We've just 1 stitch left. So we're just going to cut our thread. Give yourself enough to thread and just weave it in. Then we're going to put the end through the loop to secure it, and then we're going to thread a wide-eyed needle with the end. Can be a little tricky, doesn't always want to go in. Oh. Right, let's try again. There we go. There we go. So we're going to weave the end in. So we're going to turn it over to the back, which we're using the purl side as the back, and we're just going to weave it through a few stitches. I like to do it on a diagonal, like so. And then what I like to do is just weave it slightly back the way we came, cutting through some of the stitches, and then back again, kind of split the stitches to go through, because we want to just get that end nice and secure. And then we're going to trim it like so, and that's the end weaved in. If you have any other ends, like the starting end, weave that in as well, and then you're finished. You can actually block the blanket if you want. The best way to do this is a little spray, water in a spray, and just give it a little spray so it's damp, and then get a big towel, put it down, and then pin it in the nice rectangular shape, and then just leave it to dry. I often just leave them overnight, but you don't have to, however you want to do it. And your blanket is finished. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. Do give us a like or a comment or subscribe to us. We are just a small family business, and so all of that really does help. I hope you've enjoyed it. Look at our beautiful blanket. And the edging, I just absolutely love the moss stitch edging. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.